Time now for business. That means Kate Moody is here. How are you, Kate?
Hi, Mark.
OK, good to see you. Starting with yet another strike here in Paris. Once again, the ride-hailing app Uber at the heart of it.
Yeah, well, in the past, we've seen taxi drivers around the world, and particularly here in France, taking to the streets to protest what they see as unfair competition from platforms like Uber. This Wednesday, it was Uber drivers themselves who demonstrated in central Paris, along with chauffeurs for similar services. They were calling on the government to back down on its efforts to tighten industry regulations. Shona Bhattacharya has the story.
Demanding the right to exist. Ride-sharing services honked their horns in Paris this Wednesday. Hundreds of luxury cars whose drivers work for Uber and other app-based companies. They were reacting to the measures taken last week by France's Prime Minister. To make sure app-based drivers don't pick up clients in the street, Manuel Valls called on them to return to their base between jobs. But as these kinds of drivers are self-employed, their base is often their home, far from the city center.
Can you imagine a driver making a trip with a client of only 2 kilometers and then being obliged to return 13 or 14 kilometers to his base? No, that's not possible. It's not well thought out. It came out of a climate of violence, too fast.
The Prime Minister's proposals came after 3 days of taxi strikes and include frequent checks at airports and train stations to make sure app-based drivers aren't picking up customers. The drivers in question say they're being squeezed out of the business.
The taxis want the monopoly. This is 2016. That's not possible. There's competition everywhere in all areas.
A subset of non-taxi drivers hold a license that's easier to obtain and which allows them to carry just 2 to 9 people at a time. As many of them skirt the rules and use platforms like Uber to pick up just one customer, the government has called on app-based services to stop using them, which could put some 10,000 jobs in jeopardy.
Let's take a look at the markets now. We saw heavy losses in Asia trickling over to Europe. The FTSE, DAX and CAC 40 closing down between 1 and just over 1.5 percentage points each. A very volatile session on Wall Street that saw a comeback before the closing bell. The Dow surging 180 points. The S&P also rallying. Just the Nasdaq finishing in the red. Oil prices have bounced back. U.S. crude finishing up over 8% after sinking below $30 a barrel on Tuesday. Turning to some of the day's other business headlines now. Yahoo shares dropped as much as 7% after the internet company said it would cut 15% of its workforce, or more than 1,000 jobs, by the end of the year. It's the latest in a series of cost-cutting measures as it struggles to compete with the likes of Google and Facebook. Yahoo lost $4.3 billion last year. General Motors raked in record profits of nearly $10 billion in 2015, as America's biggest car maker reported earnings of $2.8 billion in the fourth quarter. Strong sales of SUVs and pickup trucks in North America helped fuel growth, and GM said it expected to do even better this year. And the former pharmaceutical boss Martin Shkreli has appeared in a New York court where he faces 7 counts of securities fraud and conspiracy. The 32-year-old sparked outrage last year when his touring pharmaceuticals hiked the price of an AIDS drug from $13.50 to $750 per pill. A U.S. congressional panel is now investigating that controversy and has published excerpts of Shkreli's emails in which he boasted that his decision would bring the firm $1 billion. Finally, the city of Paris is undergoing a futuristic makeover of sorts. More than 800 individuals or companies had submitted plans to give the French capital a facelift with a focus on new housing facilities and parks. At least 22 projects have now been accepted by Mayor Anne Hidalgo, who hopes to provide at least 6,000 jobs. She spoke to France 24's reporter Karim Hakiki about how she envisions the future of Paris.
The city we see in these plans is greener because you see nature takes over all of the space. In my opinion, it's more peaceful because it also leaves a lot of space that can be shared. There'll be some private buildings with rooms for friends just passing by. There are many shared working spaces as well. In Paris, we're always on the lookout for a place to have a party, to have a family reunion. All of that is made possible because Parisians who participated in this process said they wanted it, because that's how they live.
Les Parisiens qui ont participé à toute cette élaboration ont dit on veut ça parce qu'on vit comme ça.
green spaces and more parties. That's the message from the Paris.
Partiesbyanne.com. I can see it now. Our producer, Jan, complaining that his local taxes he lives in Paris are going up. It's probably because of what she has planned.
He could take it over to her.
Okay, let's remain on the fence on this one. Kate, thank you very much indeed. Let's